Good evening and welcome to the third lockdown Mash Report. Ah, the lockdown. The reason you phoned your parents more in the last month than you did in the previous decade. Not me, of course. Even when there's not a pandemic on, I have to phone my parents every day because otherwise they assume I've been home alone. I want to start by reassuring you that no matter how badly you think you're handling this pandemic, whether you're paralysed by anxiety or if for dinner last night you made yourself a crisp sandwich but instead of bread you used crisps, so you basically just ate crisps, or if you're using your daily exercise outing simply to run into the street and scream, "Leave me alone, Joe Wicks! You can't make me exercise no matter how handsome you are!" I want to reassure you that you're still doing better than the President of America. On Tuesday, Donald Trump announced that the US would cease all funding to the World Health Organization, which, as behaviour goes in this current pandemic, ranks somewhere between cancelling your Netflix subscription and French kissing a pangolin. To be fair, organisation is one of Trump's least favourite words, closely followed by world and health. The only organisation he'd be more suspicious of would have to be called Media Consent Vegetables. The United States had previously been the largest single financial backer of the WHO, and this move was heavily criticised by the second largest financial backer of the WHO, who's Bill Gates. Under Trump, the US has abdicated global leadership to such an extent that our only hope is now this. Some of you might think that reference was dated. I'd call it vintage. Amazingly though, that's not all. Over the Easter weekend, the New York Times released leaked emails that showed Trump ignored his own government's experts' advice on coronavirus in January and February. Trump responded in Tuesday's press briefing by doing this.
Now with that, I have a couple of we have a few clips that we're just going to put up. We could turn the lights a little bit lower. I think you'll find them interesting. Please, you could put it on. Thank you.
Well, we've asked them to accelerate whatever they're doing in terms of a vaccine.
We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. We could give you hundreds of clips just like that. We have them.
Yeah, he wheeled in a telly like a hungover supply teacher whose lesson is titled, "Why She Won't Let Me See the Kids." Trump's priority has not been the safety of the American people, it's been his own re-election, which is why he's been able to say things like this.
Dr. Fauci said earlier this week that the lag in testing was in fact a failing. Do you take responsibility for that?
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all.
And it's also why he's trying to end the lockdown prematurely. Look, Trump had been planning to campaign on a platform of a strong economy and record employment, both of which, like everything in his life, he basically inherited. Now that those have gone, what has he got left? What has he achieved in the last 3 years, apart from essentially becoming the whole world's crazy racist uncle on a family WhatsApp group? At this stage, if the 2020 presidential election does happen, the only realistic campaign ad Trump could air would be this. Donald Trump has cut taxes for rich people and been real racist. And have a nice day, as long as you're one. Paid for by Trump for America. And now, over to the MASH news desk for the latest headlines.
Headlines on the hour.
Shady government forces want to keep us ignorant and docile, says man hosting programme about makeovers and celebrity weight loss.
Woman who burned down 5G mast now doesn't have signal.
And who's laughing now? Ask sex doll owners.
Home Secretary Priti Patel has responded to accusations that NHS workers have been inadequately supplied with protective equipment, saying she's looked on Amazon, but they're really expensive now. Patel has faced bullying allegations in recent weeks. However, a spokesman described her as a warm, compassionate boss who recently rewarded her staff with a team outing to a cockfight.
We were dead excited getting on the coach, although we thought we were going to Alton Towers, not a remote barn near Derby.
Most of us had never been to a cockfight before, and it was quite a different... Well, Preeti says it's a great metaphor for how life works, and if Preeti says it's fun, it's fun.
It was weird, though, when Priti smeared the blood on our faces and said, "Now we are family."
That's a secret.
Christ, I'm so fucked! God. I gotta leave, I gotta get out of here.
Joanna Kramer there, about to be in a whole world of pain.
As the UK lockdown looks set to continue, there seems to be a lack of consensus between the public, the government and the police over what social distancing measures actually constitutes in practical terms. So to provide us with some information, we're joined by Rachel Paris from the self-isolation of her own home. Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Nish. How have you been?
Yeah, I've been okay, actually. I mean, I think pretty good under the circumstances.
Sorry, Nish. Slip of the tongue there. I meant where? Where have you been? And for how long? And who with? Who with, Nish?
Okay, I've been in my house and then I've been going out for walks once a day. Sorry, Rachel, why are you asking me this and what are you writing down?
Oh, I've got to keep tabs on everyone, Nish. I'm the new social distance monitor. Look, I've got a sash.
Man, the lady loves a sash. If I may say, Rach, it does look like you've made that yourself.
I make all my own sashes, Nish. Sewing is a great indoor activity, actually, something that you might want to consider. Now, Nish, the ever-evolving government guidelines around social distancing actually leave quite a lot of room for interpretation. Only go outside for food, health reasons or work, but only if you cannot work from home. In fact, the guidelines are vague enough that even the police are getting it wrong. So it seems terribly unfair that the public, people like you, Nish,
Yeah, and you.
that the public get blamed for getting it wrong. So that's why I prepared for the viewers my guide to social distancing. Firstly, you've got to keep 2 meters apart at all times. 2 meters apart, separate, apart. Imagine Priti Patel and imagine a sincere apology. Never the twain shall meet. It's simple enough, isn't it, Nish? But of course, to begin with, this wasn't the case. Everything stayed open, even as many health experts demanded a lockdown. But there was no way that we could tell that it would come here just because it happened in Italy. I mean, the Roman Empire happened in Italy. Doesn't mean that it came here.
It did, Rachel.
Well, it did, but it might not have. So, now, huge horse racing events were initially fine. And that picture's just the crowd, Nish. You should have seen the jockeys. They were literally sat on the horses. Now, Cheltenham subsequently claimed that the reason that they went ahead with the 3-day racing event was because they'd seen that Boris Johnson attended an England rugby match. And as you'll know, the Prime Minister has been absolutely fine ever since. So, where are we now? Well, the central battleground is parks. Now, as government advice allows, many city dwellers living in quite confined circumstances take their permitted daily exercise in the largest local open space available to them, only to discover they've got it wrong.
Okay, this is actually an interesting point. Why is jogging in the park okay but not sitting in the park?
Well, jogging involves continuous sputtering from the mouth while taking up as large a space as possible, so that's obviously fine. However, if you want to sunbathe, then police on huge horses will charge at you. Now, without brave photographers going to the park to take photos of these cowards going to the park, precious column inches would have to be taken up with stuff about how the government repeatedly missed opportunities to mass purchase ventilators. Oh, and please, if you must have a barbecue in the park, you've got to keep moving. Why not secure the disposable barbecue round your neck like an usherette's tray like they used to have in West End shows? That way, you can cook hamburgers while you jog and, worst case scenario, if you do set yourself on fire, stop, drop and roll is a valid form of exercise. Truth is, social distancing is easier for some people than it is for others. Some are in households that aren't healthy or aren't safe. And in spite of this, brilliantly, the British people are largely following the rules. Look at the pictures of the big blank empty spaces over the bank holiday weekend. So let's not allow the unparalleled fun of judging your neighbours distract us from the government's responsibilities. If you're going to spy on anyone, spy on them. Oh, and as for your neighbours, don't worry, I've clocked it and they're going down. Oh, and Nish, I'm watching you.
Thank you, Rachel Paris.
Football news now, and the Premier League is to resume on the moon. The barren surface of the moon is free from coronavirus, although at low gravity, hoofing the ball over the bar means the ball can end up as much as 15 miles away. We spoke to players and fans about the new Moonball League.
Yeah, obviously Moon's always a difficult place to come to. Try and tackle somebody and they've jumped 50 metres in the air. But really for me and the lads, I think the main problem is just the lack of prostitutes. I mean our wives.
There are very few lunar vodka bars, which helps lads behave, but on downside, with no atmosphere, it's difficult for me to shout my usual encouragement during matches. Yeah. Like, come on, you fat bastards! Sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pain having to travel 384,000 kilometres just to watch your team, but, you know, it's what football's all about, isn't it? At least we're not away every week.
And it's just come in that all teams in the Moon League have changed their strips to new lunar versions. So that's another piece of overpriced shite you'll have to buy.
Yesterday, Dominic Raab announced that the lockdown would extend for at least another 3 weeks. But to be honest, I don't think anyone was surprised. Was there really someone in this country who expected Raab to just walk out and go, "Phew, that was weird, pub?" And the reason it wasn't a surprise is because things are pretty bleak. Healthcare workers aren't getting the protective equipment they need, testing numbers are still lagging behind targets, and to cap it all off, this week my neighbours have engaged in what can only be described as a heroic amount of banging. I knew the quarantine would make people feel a number of different things. Anxiety, loneliness, despair. I didn't think one of them would be honey. At times of crisis, we do turn to the government for guidance, which I think is why the daily briefings are being watched by so many people. In 10 years' time, it feels like if they do one of those most watched TV moments in British history, the top three is going to be the 1966 World Cup final, Del Boy falling through the bar, and Dominic Raab threatening to karate chop anyone he sees languishing in a park. Of course, Raab isn't fronting all the press briefings. You get Rishi Sunak when you need to hear about the budget, you get Matt Hancock when you need to hear about healthcare, and you get Priti Patel when someone thinks, "Hey, why haven't we heard from her for a while?" Oh, that's why. Yes, Home Secretary Priti Patel has been quiet of late. Any reasonable person would assume that was because of the widespread bullying allegations against her. All that time she was forced to resign for that thing which definitely wasn't treason, and I don't know why everybody's saying it's treason. Everybody shut up about the treason. It wasn't treason. In any case, she did one of the briefings, and when asked to apologise to frontline workers for the lack of PPE, she did this.
Well, I'm sorry if people feel that there have been failings. I'll be very, very clear about that.
That's not an apology. "I'm sorry if you feel" is the new "I'm not a racist but." Both phrases basically mean, I'm about to be disingenuous, but if it helps, I also think you're an idiot. When she wasn't non-apologising, Patel announced a new social media initiative to support the rising numbers of victims of domestic violence. Whilst any action in this area is to be welcomed, isn't a social media campaign the sort of thing you do when you're not the government? Social media campaigns are something campaign groups use to pressurise the government, and people use to get people to bring back old TV shows. It just feels a bit strange to have someone in charge stand behind a podium and say, "We've just started a change.org petition asking the government to do something about all of this. Also, bring back blockbusters." What do you mean they brought it back last year? Well, I didn't watch it, so they need to bring it back again. But Patel did also pledge money. £2 million support package for helplines and online services. Now, whilst this is very good, it's a drop in the ocean compared to the swinging cuts to council refuges during austerity and a tiny fraction of the £48.2 million a leading domestic abuse charity has called for. So to summarise, social media campaign and not enough money. This government takes the same approach to everything that I did to my various temp jobs. Do something close to, but never quite reaching, the bare minimum. I basically spent 5 years pretending to be on the phone. "Oh, why yes, Mr. Business. I'll fax that spreadsheet over ASAP. I'm working. I was frequently fired. Worse than Patel's approach was Matt Hancock, the health secretary, or as most of the population pronounce it, Matt Hancock, the health secretary. All right. Hancock got in hot water for comments that seemed to suggest that NHS staff were overusing protective equipment. And I can see why medical professionals would be offended. Does Matt Hancock think that every shift starts with the charge nurse gathering the other nurses around and saying, "Right, everyone, this equipment is life-saving and it's running out fast, so the important thing is that we really came through it"? Nurses are, as we all know, stereotypically greedy and wasteful. That's why you always hear phrases like, "Hey, stop Florence Nightingaling the ketchup." As well as being weirdly passive-aggressive towards the NHS staff, Matt Hancock has also been calling for us to clap them. Although, given his comments, it's probably just so once a week the nation can all gather together and send these people a clear message. We're fucking watching you, nurses. And then there's the king of empty gestures, Boris Johnson. Look, it was great to see the Prime Minister this week and great to hear that he's on the mend. It's also great that he made special mention of 2 immigrant nurses who helped him in hospital, Louise from Portugal and Jenny from New Zealand. What's less great is that the Prime Minister has consistently criticised and demonised immigrants for being a drain on the very NHS that saved his life. These are actual comments from Boris Johnson. In 2016, during a session in front of the House of Commons Treasury Committee, he said uncontrolled immigration from the EU was driving down wages and putting pressure on the NHS. He also stated during the Leave campaign that we get uncontrolled immigration which puts unsustainable pressure on our vital public services. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, you know. of course he wasn't going to apologise or roll back on those remarks, but it does still just seem odd, you know? It's like what would happen if, in A Christmas Carol, Scrooge had just woken up on Christmas Day, given the Cratchits a shout-out on his Facebook page, and then just left it at that. Ultimately, it doesn't matter how many nice speeches you make, or social media initiatives you launch, or badges you produce. The fact is that nurses' wages stayed capped for almost a decade, which in real terms constitutes a pay cut. Community support and social care services were more than decimated by austerity. NHS workers are dying and will continue to die, and the government is pushing through an immigration bill that threatens the future of the whole health service. Gesture is fine, but it must be backed up by policy. And if you're thinking, wow, Nish, you're being a bit harsh on Johnson and his government there, to you people I say, I'm very sorry you feel that way.
A law-abiding mum of two has been forced to buy flour from the dark web. Some viewers may find Nathan Muir's report depressing.
Like so many others across lockdown Britain, Eleanor Shaw has started taking extreme and illegal measures to get her baking ingredients, finding herself in a shady underworld where bakers live or die on a coin toss. I caught up with Eleanor earlier.
I've got 2 kids, under 10, and pizza dough making is an activity that I can string out all day. Plus, I'm under a lot of pressure from the School Mums WhatsApp group. Each time I find myself just ordering more and more just to get that same feeling. Now the dealer's saying that I get a discount if I ship some for him, so I've got 25 kilograms self-raising in the cellar.
There are always going to be people that need flour, so I'm just providing a service. You know, and I'm keeping it off the streets. I only use wheat fields I 100% trust, and the miller would never cut this with anything.
Look, what about all these bitches? Look, you see that? Look at that. Who's supplying them, huh? Shit, the cops.
Hurry, open up.
Worried about your baking habit? There will be a number after the show.
As lockdown continues, more people are turning to their screens for education. Joe Wicks is leading the nation in exercise videos, Jamie Oliver's doing cooking classes, and if you look around at the internet, you can find lots of instructional videos where a guy goes around to fix a lady's washing machine. But then, things get really weird. For more on this, we turn to our special educational correspondent, Desiree Birch. Desiree!
Oh my God, it is so good to see you, Nish. You got the invite. Yes. Welcome to the party. Coats in the bedroom, pills in the kitchen.
Desiree, are you at a party? We're supposed to be self-isolating.
Oh, no, Nish. It's just a CD called That's What I Call Background Party Noises Volume 3. Don't worry, Nish. I'm still profoundly alone. Just like I would be at a party. The people are fake. The alcoholism is real.
I mean, I feel like I should be concerned, but maybe you and I can have a chat about that off camera. Just tell us for now, what's this project you've been working on?
Okay, so look, everybody is making kids videos right now so that they can look like they care about education and not their own self-promotion. And I want in.
Wait, Desiree, you've made an educational video for children.
I have made the educational video to end all educational videos. My video, Nish, is about the sociological problems surrounding journalistic integrity and its dehumanization of non-white subjects.
Well, I respect that. You know, most people are just going with how to paint with watercolours or how to make sourdough.
I ain't nobody's starter, Nish. Roll that tape!
I'm just the media I'm always criticised, and now I'm just sitting here figuring out why.
Media, my dude. You don't know why? I can think of so many reasons.
Yeah, right, yeah, okay.
But the reason you suck today is your racial bias. You know, the way you constantly mix up people of color in the news. Come on. You see, Mr. Media, you keep getting all us darkies mixed up in your news stories. Let's start with famous brown athletes. Remember when you ran that story about Kobe Bryant, but the footage you showed alongside the story was footage of LeBron James, a totally different person?
Well, that's an easy mistake to make.
No. Aside from the fact that their names are on the back of their goddamn jerseys, they look completely different. As you can see here, LeBron James has a full head of hair, whereas Kobe Bryant is dead.
Thank you for releasing my spirit.
Oh, God, we're definitely getting letters over that. I'm just the medium when it comes to sport. It seems there's more brown people than I first thought. Oh, yeah.
Sweet rhyme, dickhead. It's not just sports stars that you mess up. Sometimes you mix up actual celebrities, like when you confused Matrix actor Lawrence Fishburne for Snakes on a Plane actor Samuel L. Jackson.
Did you get a lot of reaction to that Super Bowl commercial?
What Super Bowl commercial?
Oh, you know what? I've admit my mistake.
I'm not Lawrence Fishburne.
That's my fault. I know that. That was my fault. My mistake. You know what?
We don't all look alike.
Look, I don't know how much easier we can make this one for you, Mr. Media. Samuel L. Jackson is always the one in the Kangol hat from 1992. Always. You think he wears those because he likes them? He wears them so that white people don't stop him on the street to tell him how much they loved his I Have a Dream speech.
R.I.P. Nelson Mandela. Am I right?
Hey, come on! Sure, Mandela and Martin Luther King were both smoking hot pieces of ass with dicks as powerful as their messages.